All right. Let's see if we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Test out the audio here. Make sure we're sounding good. Test out the audio here. All right. We are sounding good. So welcome back, everyone. Had a nice break there for Leagues Cup. Yeah, didn't spend too much time, but we'll have quite a nice agenda for today's video. So, as usual, we'll do a recap of the last round. I have to remind myself what actually happened. We'll do our usual MLS Fantasy Picks League shout-outs. Instead of 5 fantasy takeaways this video, I'll be chatting through some what I think are MLS Fantasy impact or implications after some of the transfers. So exciting moves around the league. Just want to call it out and how it might impact the fantasy game. And then I also want to chat through a bit about Leagues Cup. So I think last season for Leagues Cup, we just had a break for like a month straight for fantasy. So we really just had like a pretty big lull in the season and then just had to remind ourselves like what is actually going on, who's playing who, and everything like that. So I think they just tried to break it up a bit different this go around, keep the actual league itself moving, but still having Leagues Cup take place. So I myself, I haven't been watching the Leagues Cup games because I'm a Philadelphia fan and they are not participating. So I just sort of had to do a recap myself of all the games that took place and basically see what's going on and how it will impact this fantasy weekend. So yeah, we'll do that instead of the 5 fantasy takeaways. And then as usual, key considerations for the next round, my locks for the week, clean sheet hunting, the final third, clearance rack, armband, and the weekly poll. So let's hop right into things. So we're doing a recap of the last round. It was a pretty average round. I had a 63. Week rank wasn't that great. It's like 1,184, though my overall rank really didn't change at all. So I think I was sitting around the 150s before. So I feel like a lot of the same scores around the players, at least to my overall rank. So yeah, I did an auto-roo, and I had Heel and Musa. I thought Evander, Rusnak, and BL would definitely end up outscoring, I think, Dreyer on the second round or the later round of games there. But yeah, it was very disappointing from our top midfielders here. Wagner came up big, had a good point pull from Malanda, Kalina with the 8, Baribo with the 7. Very disappointing 3 from Buwanga. So we ended up, getting a 6. But yeah, got Musa's 9 off the bench, Heels off the bench. Not going to spend too much time here. Very average week. Didn't really learn too much, though I'm definitely going to start looking at Musa a bit more. So looking at our leagues, not too many changes. So as you can see, pretty standard scores, mid-60s, high 50s, even mid-70s here, low 70s. So good to see those scores across the league. Still very competitive at the top of our open league. Be sure to join if you haven't yet. And then our head-to-head league, this is closed. We had the max number of players join. So I'm sitting around the 9th spot, so I think I bumped up a few here, so good to see. But yeah, Evander's still up here at the top, 63 points. Getting closer to the playoffs come end of the season. All right, so we chatted last round recap. We chatted through our league shoutouts. As I said, instead of talking through fantasy takeaways, I want to jump into transfer news. So these are the transfers that I saw that I think will have some fantasy impact. Not everything is going to have fantasy impact. First one being is Matt Turner returning to New England. So Turner, he was one of the Revolution's best keepers. I remember those days of Buxa, Gustavo Bo, Heel. They won Supporters Shield. That's when Turner really started to make a name for himself. I'm glad to see him returning back to the MLS. Definitely help New England's defensive side of things when it comes to fantasy. I also did see RSL picked up a designated player striker, a Brazilian guy from Botafogo. So also good to see, RSL boosting their attack may increase Luna's fantasy value. We will have to see once Cruz gets some starts going. And also for the Crew. The Crew signed a DP striker, I think from an Egyptian side. Yeah, good amount of money here, $7.5 million. Good to see as well for the Crew. So we'll have to see how they'll line up with Ali here. But I feel like a pretty big signing. And then Miami, no surprise, signing another big name, Rodrigo de Paul from Atletico Madrid. Doesn't look like he's a DP. I think it was like a TAM deal. I don't know exactly. But you know how Miami, they just find a way to make things happen. So yeah, another big name for Miami. And then another call out, not an official one necessarily, but I saw on Twitter from Tommy Scoops himself. Looks like Mihailovic is moving from the Rapids to Toronto FC. So something to note for fantasy, as we definitely target those teams playing Toronto quite frequently. We'll have to see how Mihailovic makes an impact for Toronto. And then just some other fun players I saw. Nothing official yet. I think Muller is possibly coming over to Vancouver. And then Son from Tottenham coming over to LAFC. So some big names there. We'll have to keep an eye on the updates from the transfer side of things. But definitely some big names to make an impact in the MLS and in the fantasy game. So yeah, keep an eye out on transfers. It definitely impacts the fantasy side of things, keeps things exciting, and we'll have to see. I don't think anyone I mentioned today has been added to the game yet, but just keep an eye on as players start to play and as they get added to the fantasy game. Actually, other thing I want to call out, as I said, Leagues Cup is happening, and definitely, I didn't realize what the format was. I really haven't been watching as the Union aren't playing in it. But I think over the past 10 days, all the teams participating have been playing 3 games over 10 days. So I feel like that's a lot. I've been checking lineups. Looks like they're playing their starters for the most point, but rotating a bit as well. So yeah, 18 teams playing from the MLS to match up to Liga MX's 18. So you got Atlanta, Charlotte, Cincinnati, Colorado, Columbus, Houston, LAFC, the Galaxy, Miami, Minnesota, Montreal, New York City, the Red Bull, Orlando, Portland, RSL, San Diego, and Seattle. So all teams are playing. And I think by the end of this week, we'll identify the top 4 of MLS and then the top 4 of Liga MX who will continue. So, 12 teams won't make it through, or quick math there, I think it's actually 16 teams. It's a bit late, long day. 4 minus 18. 14. Apologies there, folks. Yeah, so those teams will not make it through, which will obviously free up, those guys to not rotate as much, be available for fantasy. So keep an eye on that end of this week. But I'm expecting rotation. I don't know if I'm thinking this is going to impact fantasy too much. But I'm definitely targeting those teams that haven't been participating in Leagues Cup, just because I feel like those teams are going to be gassed after 3 games in 10 days. So those teams are Austin, Chicago, DC, Dallas, SKC, Nashville, New England, Philly, San Jose, St. Louis, Toronto, and Vancouver. So yeah, we've got games coming up this weekend. All 30 teams are playing Saturday and Sunday. As I said before, not sure which of the 4 teams in the MLS will be moving on to Leagues Cup. But yeah, I feel like teams are going to be tired, and I'm going to expect rotation. So it's going to be an interesting week for fantasy. Let me know how you guys are approaching it. I'll probably be doing an auto-roo as usual. I've been doing that the past few weeks. It's worked out well. And yeah, even beyond Leagues Cup, you've got Open Cup and the Canadian Championship next week. I think a makeup game for the Union. And then just looking at the rest of the month, we've got some full slate of regular season MLS games, 16th and 17th of August. Leagues Cup picks back up Tuesday, August 19th. So those MLS teams will be competing again. And then till end of August, we'll have the Leagues Cup taking place. So yeah, it's a lot going on. This is one of the challenges of MLS fantasy, so much to keep up with, especially in the middle of the season, with transfers, with tournaments, things like Leagues Cup. It's a completely new approach for this season. So yeah, interesting. Definitely something to keep an eye on. This game week, I know I am definitely going to be checking lineups for all the games this week. I'm very curious what the starters are going to look like. But yeah, so that wraps it up. Changing it up this week, doing a Leagues Cup recap and some transfers as well. So let's chat through key considerations before moving on to player picks. So yeah, as I said before, I'm expecting Leagues Cup fatigue. For those who have been watching, let me know if that's a bit of an overshot, if you think I'm taking Leagues Cup into too much consideration. But I feel like 3 games over 10 days is a lot. And all teams are playing. You've got Saturday games, good amount of Sunday games, and then as always, check the player availability report and discipline. So much has been going on. If I call out players in my picks that are injured or suspended, let me know in the comments. But I'll be checking before games start end of this week. Okay, so that was fun. As always, let's hop into the player picks. This is just, looks like I pulled up this tab just to show how many games that have been taking place, and we still have games all the way until, what day is this? The 7th of August. So yeah, plenty of games going on, a lot to keep up with. So let's hop into my locks for the week. Finally, we can talk some fantasy MLS. So in terms of defense, I'm locked in on, not Portland, Philly. So Wagner, he's been doing very well, really stepping up. And it's a good home matchup against Toronto. We'll see if Mihailovic does end up making it over to Toronto. I don't know if that'll impact my picks necessarily. And then I'm also sticking with Feingold from New England, another team that has not been participating in Leagues Cup. So like I said, I'm looking at those teams that hopefully aren't too gassed after a lot of 3 games in the past 10 days. And then while I'm on New England, he'll definitely lock for me at home against DC. Great matchup. New England's looking good. And then, of course, I do hope he starts, where's Cincinnati? Evander. I saw some goals from him for Leagues Cup. Looking great. I know he disappointed us with a 4. He does that sometimes, but it's Evander. You got to trust the process. And a good home matchup against Charlotte, who have not been as strong defensively previously. So honestly, those are my only locks for the week. I like these guys. Let's move on over to clean sheet hunting. So defensive plays, I feel like there's a decent amount of looks. I feel like from a clean sheet standpoint, I like New England. I like Philly. I like Austin. Austin are at home against Houston. And then from a later matchup standpoint, you've got Cincinnati at home against Charlotte. And then you've got Minnesota at home against Colorado. So those are all like the defenders or defensive sides that I like this week. So like I said, I like Evander. I do like Evander, but I like Wagner. I like Feingold. For the attacking upside as well, not necessarily those teams that I called out, but I like Freeman. They're at home against Miami. He gets involved in the attack plenty. As you can see, he's got some other bonus points there. And then just from a clean sheet look, I said Feingold for New England. For Austin, I like Heinz Ike. Definitely he's been getting some good bonus points, passing bonus points. Even got an assist recently, I believe. And then not as sold on Orjano as I have been before, but Orjano definitely a good look for a clean sheet standpoint and as well on the attacking side. And then Minnesota, you've got plenty of options as well. Markanich for that goal chance. He's been actually surprisingly putting in plenty of goals, but as you can see, a bit random. Got a 1 last week. Any of those defenders on Minnesota, I'm also a fan of this week. So in terms of like a keeperoo, I'm probably looking at a Blake to St. Clair for Minnesota. But you got a lot of good options, I feel, from a defensive standpoint for clean sheet chances. So yeah, that's what I like on defense this week. Like those teams that aren't really competing in Leagues Cup and those good home matchups. So moving on to the final third, the attacking players that I like this week. As I said, I like Heel, I like Evander. So these guys, I expect to be starting. I'm definitely a Ojeda fan. I mean, Miami's not too strong defensively. I'm still a fan of Zinkernagel. Unsure how LAFC's defense will be looking, but Zinkernagel I trust. He's let me down 1 or 2 times, but feel like he's a very strong creator for Chicago. Vancouver as well. I mean, they are away, but they're playing San Jose, and Berhalter's putting up plenty of bonus points. I like him this week. as Vancouver also have not been competing in Leagues Cup, though I do think they have the Canadian Championship next week. And then another fun play that I like this week for midfield is Sullivan at home against Toronto. So he's even putting up points without goal contributions. He can sneak in an assist or a goal every now and then. So yeah, I like Sullivan, and he's only 8.9 right now. So a good option for you if you're looking to save some money. Then looking at forwards, I'm also a fan of, there's a few good options this week. Definitely Baribo. He did well for me last week. I don't know if it was a huge differential play, but he got me a 7, so I'm happy with that. Still a fan of Denny Bouanga. They are away, but they're playing Chicago. Chicago's not known for their defense. And then another fun pick, I don't think it's too crazy either after the form that he's been in, is Peter Musa at home against Portland. A good look. And then Prince Owusu, running out of space here, but Montreal, CF Montreal, at home against Atlanta. Atlanta have been struggling. Prince has been in a good bit of form. And then another one that I like is San Jose, is Chicho Arango. Bit expensive, but it looks like he's getting those assists, some bonus points here, and could be a decent matchup at home against Vancouver. So those are the forwards that I like. All right, so that finishes up the final third. Looking at the clearance rack, so some cheap guys if you need some starters but don't want to break your bank. I'm a fan, at least he's been starting recently, Livio Bizo for Philly, only 5 mil at home against Toronto. I was calling out Makanya, but he's a steep 6.6 now. So I feel like you could definitely hop over to Bizo if he is starting. And then I did see from a New England standpoint, Omsberg was also starting. I mean, 2 points isn't great, but he's only 4 million. If he has a start against DC, why not? Then, as I said before, midfield, save some money. Quinn Sullivan, 8.9. Great matchup at home against Toronto. And then another fun shout is Mr. Paintil from the Galaxy, playing a Seattle squad who I do expect to be rotated, as they do that when plenty of tournaments and games are taking place. If you don't want to break the bank on Mr. Peter Musa here, Logan Farrington putting up some goals. Only 5.2 at home against Portland. Could be a good shout. And then another fun one, he did connect with Heel a bit in the past week. Shankalai himself. I think he's a DP for New England. But yeah, only 7.5, putting up goals at home against DC. All right, so moving on to the armband. So a bit tougher now that Mr. Messi is injured. I don't think I called that out, but he did get an injury in the Leagues Cup. And I don't believe there's any expectations around timelines for his return. Just keep an eye on that. It's hard to pass on Denny. They are away, but they're playing Chicago. He did let us down with 3 last week, but hey, he can always bounce back. And then if he starts, of course, Evander, always a good look. I think myself, I'm leaning towards Heel just due to his floor and that good home matchup against DC. And hopefully he plays the full 90 as they haven't been participating in Leagues Cup. Oh, hey, Eric. Sorry, I did not see your messages there. I've been in the weeds in my notes. Good evening. Good to see you from Montreal. Yeah, so did I say if they were in Leagues Cup? I can't remember. Yeah, Montreal are in Leagues Cup. Let's check the standings. Oh, yeah. 1-1. So, yeah, not looking too great. But, yeah, I like the shout on Owusu. He's been looking good from a fantasy standpoint, for sure. Thanks for the comments, Eric. All right. So I think that wraps up the armband. Let's hop over to the weekly poll. And it has been pretty funny looking at all of these. I'll have to do a review at the end of the season. But I'm pretty sure ever since I've started doing this poll, whoever won the poll did not get the most points for that round. Even last week, Beal, we expected to absolutely crush it. He got a 3, Dreyer got a 6, because Dreyer let us down pretty bad. But yeah, so just want to see. Hopefully, Heel does score more points than Zinchenko this week, as I'm expecting him, or I plan to captain him. Yeah, but Zinchenko potentially on the bench, so we'll see. But yeah, so that wraps it up for me this week. Good to be back with MLS Fantasy. Hope you all have been enjoying Leagues Cup. I'm curious to see how it impacts fantasy this weekend. And moving on, and excited as always to see all the transfers in and out of the MLS to keep the league exciting. So thanks all for watching. That wraps it up for me. Good luck this week. Feel free to comment if I missed any transfers, anything like that. And yeah, we'll see what the Leagues Cup shapes up as. I think the end of this week. We'll finish up. We'll see who moves on, who will want to be resting their squads this weekend. So yeah, as always, thanks all, and good luck.